Hello all, welcome back to Learning Partner. If you are new, please do subscribe. This is another channel where you can directly connect with me. We have around 1000 plus members already who are working. We take live coding sessions and everything. To just get notified about those sessions, please do join this group. So in this video, we are going to see use effect hook. Now, up till now, we have just seen the use state. So that is the hook what we use to deal with the state. We can create the state, we can update. For that purpose, we have used the use effect hook. Now the second hook is the use effect hook. Now where we are going to use this hook and what are the use cases where we have to go for the use effect, how many times that use effect executes. So there are proper scenarios. So we are going to see that now. Fine. So first of all, in previous video, we have seen the API call. Let's say I have to make an API call. Let's say, let me just create a state. Let's say user list, set user, use state. We will initialize with empty. Now we will create a function to make an API call. So constant get users. It's going to make an API call. So async round bracket, curly bracket, enter. And here we will write the API call. Constant result is equal to await exois dot get. And for get, we need to pass the URL. So let's get any URL. Let's use the JSON placeholder. And this we need to pass over here as a parameter. So once the API call is success, we will store the data into this array. So result dot data. Fine. Now, up till now, what we used to do, we used to create a button, and on click of that button, we used to call this API call, and then we used to get the data. But let's say on the page load, you need to show the data. Let me just create div class row div class call 12. And inside this call tail, we need to show the data in ULLI. And user list, we need to iterate. So user list dot map item, we need to return what we are going to return li. And here item dot username, we need to display username only we get now. Correct. So if we save, here you can see we are not getting any data, and that API call is also not happening. See, if I redirect and if I again go to over here, API call is not happening because we have to call this function. So to do that, let's create a button first. I'm just going with the normal scenario so that you should understand the use case also. And let's add a button class. And on click of this button, we will call this API call. Fine. Now, let's add a button name. So now, if we click on this button, we will have one API call. See, and once we get the response, then our ULLI got rendered. But let's say on the page load, you need to do that. Once once your component load, then you need to make that API call, because let's say this kind of scenario where we have on the page load, we are doing in this component, we are doing the CRUD operation. On the page load, we need to show the data. Why user will click on the load data button, then you will make the get API call. Once the component load, you need to make the API call. So if you have a scenario like that, where on the page load, you need to do something. In our case, we are making the API call. So your use state you can use. So how do we write the use state? So see, use effect. Use effect. Once you select that, import will be automatically updated. Fine. Round bracket. Again, round bracket arrow function, we need to write it over here like that. This is your use state. Now this function, I can call it over here. So this use effect will automatically execute. And once it automatically execute, we are calling this function. So now let's remove this button. Now we don't need this button. Now just pay attention. Once I navigate to the use effect, you can see API call is continuously making. See, so many API calls are there. Reason for this, let me just redirect to some page. So many API calls were there. See, but we just call this function only once, but you can see so many API calls are there. That's because use effect is very tricky when it comes to React. Use effect will call on several times. See, on component load. This is the first scenario where use effect will execute. Once the component load, use effect will get called. Again, if any state updated, then also use effect will call. So now, why we were making multiple API call is on the page load, this API use effect got called and we are calling this API. But in this API call, we are updating the state. So what I said, once the state also change, then also again use effect will execute. So it's an continuous process. Got it? So use effect will call into scenario on the component load and once any state value got changed because on the component load, this API call triggered. And in this API call, we are making this function and from this function, again, we are changing the state. So once the state change, again, this function will execute, again API call will. So this is the cycle. That's why you were able to see multiple API call. Now, how do we handle that? So you can pass empty array over here. So after curly bracket, you can pass empty array. So this is what we call as a dependencies. We are saying that this use effect is not dependent on any state. We are passing empty dependency. So if we save now, and if we navigate now, you will be able to only see two API call. I will explain why two also. Once I navigate to the use effect, so you can see only two API call is there. But if we remove this empty array dependency, let's try again. Once I navigate, you can see continuously API calls are going on. Got it? But if we have empty array, so you won't be able to see that much API call, only two API call. And these two API calls also because in our index.js, sorry, app.js, index.js, we have this strict mode. So if you remove this strict mode, you will only able to see one API call. See now, let me clear. Only one API call is there. So on the page load, we are able to make the API. This is the purpose of use effect. Got it? So if you want to run some code only once when the component load, you can write like this. Now, let's say we will create two state constant username set username use state. Okay, so we have created a normal state. So I'm explaining another scenario. So we have created a normal state. Let's create one more username we have created. Let's say user city. Let user city. Fine. So we have created two state. As I said, use effect will execute two times. So means once the component loader and if any state value got changed. So now, and we can have any number of, we can create any number of use effect. See, I'm creating one more round bracket. Fine. Now here I will write console.log use effect without empty array. Fine. And this I will print use effect without empty array. And this is without with empty array. So now if you see what happens, just pay attention on the console now. If I navigate to the use effect, you can see use effect without square bracket got called two times and use effect with square bracket with got only once. Now, why it get called two times? As I said, use effect will execute two times on the component load. So first time this executed on the component load. Then when this state got changed, again this executed. Got it? Now let me again clarify it. So we have created two state. Now Let's say call 3, and again we will create a call 3 div, and inside that I will have a text box. Let's use a button. And on click of this button, what I will do, I will change the variable value, or instead of button, let's use the text box. That will be more helpful to understand. Type text. On change, we will pass event change name, and we will pass the event over here. Fine. So what we have created, a normal text box we have created. On click of this text box, we are going to call this function. So let's create this function. Constant function name. It's a normal function. Fine. In this state, we are going to get the event, and we will update this username state value. So event dot target dot value. So now see how it behaves. Without empty. Okay. And this is with empty bracket. So see, on the page load, what happens? Use effect without square bracket got called 2 times, and use effect with square bracket got only 1. Now, if I change the value, I'm just clearing it out. Now, every time I'm changing, see, this console is getting again incremented. Means whenever we are changing the state value, this console is getting triggered. So with every state value got changed, use effect will get triggered. So this use effect will execute for every state change, not just username. If you create a function for use state or not, then also it will create. Okay. So this is how use effect will behave. Again, there are many use case scenario, but when it comes to that particular need, we will again cover it. When we will create a small project now, there again various use case scenarios of use effect will be there. We will again cover it. So, but for now, if you want some code to be run on once the component load, so you will write it like this with the square bracket empty. So this use effect will execute only once, but this use effect will execute every time any state value got changed. Fine. So that's it with this video. If you are new and if you are following these videos, please do like, subscribe, and comment. Thank you all.